children. So James had decided to go off wherever. So he's 11 years older, so he's 22. So whether he's met Ethel by then, I don't know. Do we know when James and Ethel married?
No, don't think I've done that.
Right.
It won't be on this one, will it?
Will it?
No, sorry. Just pull your arm.
No.
I didn't get any stuff.
So is that your mum and dad?
Yes.
On their wedding day?
Yes.
You know the big picture you've got.
You see, Dad had
And
been married
somebody said,
before
oh,
his
that's
wife
Auntie
died.
Sophie, but we don't know
And
who Auntie
Dad
Sophie
died at
was.
57, so I didn't have time to ask much.
No.
And Mum took on Dad and 2 teenage boys. And they're the 2 boys, John and Jim. It's always John and Jim's through each generation. And both of them sadly died about 60. But I asked my sister-in-law, do you know anything about a James? Dad having an older brother, James, George's daughter. I said, do you know anything about brother James? No. And you think, how could you not even know? John said, well, there was great Aunt Ethel, and somebody went to Australia or New Zealand, and that was it. We didn't know that
So
the
was
American
that
Canadian.
you?
No, that's another relative. No, I wasn't actually born then. No, that's another relative. This is 1943.
Do you remember when we used to sing Nana? Jessie Mabel fell off the table.
Yes. She took it very good part,
Yeah.
didn't she? And the jelly throwing.
Oh God!
And I think
I used to tie her to the chair, didn't I? With
I've
grapes?
emailed a couple of photos, I think, with my father and his brother George, who was also a butcher, Dad and George. And my father wasn't ever so tall, but George was even shorter, and that's George more recent, in the 50s.
Yeah, about the same size as his wife, is it?
Yes. And it's their daughter coming to see Farrell this week.
It looks as though they were on a cruise ship or
They
something.
went on the Acadians. My father had lung cancer, and they decided we were too young to go off on a cruise, so he just went with his brother and sister-in-law. But back in the 30s, he went with his first wife before she died, and I found all these old 9mm film, which I got put on video, and I've eventually got put on a CD because, you know, like my son hasn't got a video player now. And we found boxes of them, and I went to see this guy, and I said, anytime you see a man with a cigarette or a woman in a white hat, can we just put it, like he was saying, going to Egypt, and then ships going up? I said, you don't want any of that, just with people. And they're 2 bearded gentlemen getting into a car, but I don't know who they were. But obviously it was family, it was one of the, either granddad and one of the brothers. Again, one granddad Hop was big, John was big, but some of the others are small, and Dad and George were quite small, whereas his sons were both big tall. I think that
had
looks
beards
like
in the
Farrell.
family for generations.
Definitely.
Not until Robert.
That's what it was
This
like as a
is
kid.
this one, my brother Jim, half brother Jim. See, they were from Dad's first marriage.
Right, yeah. It does look like Farrell though, doesn't it?
Yes.
When he first contacted us, I contacted my nephew, and I said, "Who do you think Farrell looks like?" He said, "Dad."
But Grandpa was really quite oblong, wasn't he?
Oh,
he was a
He
solid.
has got a solid square
He
head.
did, yeah. And he used to have huge
He had a
trouser legs.
47-inch girth, his chest.
Did he?
He was big.
Oh, yeah, I could
He was a
imagine.
powerful man, yeah.
But he had those wide trousers. Do you remember when Uncle Nick's monkey got lost?
Oh, yeah.
They found it eventually up his trouser leg hanging on his gaiter, wasn't it? As long as that's all it was hanging on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the monkey
Yeah.
in a cage on the top of a big chest of
Just,
drawers or
yes, in the
something.
front room. I thought
Yeah.
there was more than one.
It must have been
No,
something
only
about
one.
monkeys in that period, because when I went to school in Ilford, they used to say the headmistress always went round with a monkey on her shoulder. And it must have just been, you know, people had...
But
Risk
Uncle,
assessment. Can you imagine the risk
Uncle Nicky
assessment?
had odd things like that. Dad
Right.
said he saw him unpacking his suitcase
Oh,
once
had
and
a
he'd
gun.
got a gun in it.
Oh, yeah, had
A proper gun. Wow.
a hunting rifle, actually.
It was from
Oh,
Marseille,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
He
when-
was
when I
married
went
to
over-
Dad's sister.
My
Right.
sister.
Yeah.
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 Now,
Gosh.
now we say this this is peculiar how near we live to each other. Now, 40 years ago, my sister died, and she'd been married to Nicholas Girard, who was a Frenchman, and he worked in this country, changed his name to Gerard Hopwood. He then went, he was an accountant, and he went to Canada, to
Montreal.
Montreal twice, nearly died because he went there at the wrong time of year when there was no work. Came back here as a widower, and eventually married a lady Jean, who looked very similar to my sister. Then they went to Canada again, second time, and he made a success of it. And then he changed his mind, and they went to South Africa, and he became the accountant for a big hotel chain, one of the American hotel chains in Johannesburg, right? Sometime then, after then, he died, and we lost track of them. A few weeks ago, or months ago rather, Jill's daughter said, "Oh, there's somebody in my class at college with the name of Hopwood." Tell them, Jill.
And this is the daughter of the Hopwoods
Jean.
who had travelled all over.
No,
She-
it was
Wow.
their son.
Yeah,
Their son's
that's
daughter.
it. Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're
Yeah.
grand.
They had a child, Graham,
And,
and then
Right.
this is Graham's daughter.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
She turned.
And they've been living
Turned out
over
in school.
in is it
Ashwell.
Ashwell?
Ashwell,
Yeah.
about
For years, which
8
is
miles away from
miles
here.
up the road.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yes.
Such a small world when you look at it like that.
Yeah.
Because we moved out to Redbridge